I'm going to start to tell you about the mills. First of all, starting at Leith Hill and going gradually down the valley and ending up at Chelworth. That's Friday Street. Looking upstream from the dam, I think that was standing on the dam, it's a very pretty village, of course, with a very nice site. And that was a corn mill in 1579 and closed in 1736. And also, in the dam, there's a lot of iron slag. So there's no record of it being an iron mill, but I think it must have been an iron mill at some stage. And then there's ABINGER Mill, or it's also known as Crane's Mill, and there's a painting of it on the left-hand side in 1883, and just by chance, 100 years later, Glenys actually photographed it, and one can see the two watercourses on Glenys's photograph. One, of course, was where the water wheel was, and the other was a bypass. On the left-hand side of the painting has the water wheel against the mill building, the mill building has disappeared 100 years later. So it's 2 kilometres east of ABINGER Hammer and 250 metres of Crossways Farm, which is on the A25. And it probably dates from 1086, when there was a corn mill, and it later made gunpowder, copper household utensils, and then from 1667 it ground corn again. And in 1851 it made 40 sacks of flour per week, so it was quite active. But by 1895 it was disused. And then there's Paddington Mill. On the right is the Pentroff. The Pentroff is the tank through which the water flows as it gets to the water wheel, an overshot water wheel where the water comes in at the top of the wheel. And it says on it, W.J. Evelyn, 1867. So that was William John Evelyn, one of the Evelyn family, and of course they still own the estates around there. And that's the drawing that we prepared of the mill, showing the 3 stories, the pit floor, and the main floor, and then the top floor where the bins for the grain were. And then there's ABINGER Hammer, just downstream from Paddington Mill. And ABINGER Hammer was, of course, an iron mill, and it was a finery forge. Finery forges were mills with hammers that pounded the iron and got rid of a lot of the, mainly the carbon, which makes iron brittle, and it reduced it from something like 4% to 0.1%. So when it was 4%, the iron was incredibly brittle, but then it produced wrought iron, which is quite malleable. Now, this is Sir Frederick Evelyn. So he's a descendant of John Evelyn, the diarist, and John Evelyn's, I think it was his grandfather, was the person who improved the quality of gunpowder that was being made in Britain. He got the secret of making good gunpowder from a German, and he was the person who had the monopoly of collecting pigeon dung, from which saltpeter was made, which is the principal ingredient of gunpowder. And So the gunpowder industry in Britain, good quality gunpowder, started in the Tillingbourne Valley. Now, gunpowder mills are big. There are a lot of buildings at a gunpowder mill, and it was thought if the buildings were close together, if one of them blew up, it could cause neighbouring ones to blow up as well. So they wanted them far apart, so that they're very, very large sites, which is why the Chilworth site is today one of the biggest scheduled ancient monuments that we have in the country. So the buildings labelled A, B, C are the Corning House. The Corning House is where the gunpowder was made into small grains. The gunpowder has to be granulated, and that's called corning. And there's a pair of mills there, water powered. There's also a charge house, a building where the gunpowder is stored. And so on. And then there's Gomshall Mill. Now, as you know, Gomshall Mill is now a restaurant, so many of you will know it. But this is what it looked like in about 1940. Jack Hillier wrote a book about the mills of Surrey, and that was he was an artist, and he made that drawing of Gomshall Mill. Right, the next group of mills now, going from round about Shear or Netley down to Chilworth. So there's Netley, Shear, Albury Park, Park Gate. That's the exit, the gate of Albury Park, and then in Albury, Vale End, just this side of Albury, and then Postford, which is on the border between Albury and Chilworth, and there was an upper mill and a lower mill there, and there was one at Postford House, and then there was Chilworth. Netley Mill. But it was a corn mill from 1233 to 1907, and then it became the Hurtwood pumping station. Then we come to the first paper mill. There were several paper mills to the east of the Chilworth Gunpowder Works, as well as a couple to the west. So it was, and this was a rather important one. You see at the bottom it says Albury Mill and Paper Mould Manufactory. All paper was being made by hand, and they made banknote paper there. And the mould was the wooden frame with a wire mesh on it on which the paper was made. And of course for banknote paper there were special watermarks. And there was a tendency for the moulds to be made on the site where the paper was being made in that case, because they didn't want the moulds with the watermark designs for the banknotes on it travelling around the country, because they may be stolen with a lot of forgeries going on. Now, forged assignats. Now, in 1793, during the French Revolution, the Comte d'Artois, who was living in Shalford, he placed an order for paper at Albury Park with particular watermarks in it. And what he was doing was forging assignats. Now, assignat, and there's a picture at the top left of an assignat, he was forging those because they were exchanged by the revolutionary government in France for property that was confiscated. So they were sort of money. Albury Corn Mill that is best known for the fact that in 1830 the mill was set on fire because the miller, like many millers at that time, were very unpopular. So they, as a result of that, the chap who shot the miller, he was arrested, found guilty and executed. The mill was rebuilt in brick, of course, worked until 1910 and has been converted into residences and offices. An Vale End pumping station, as you see at the top left, this is just this side of Albury. It's in Albury, but it's on the west side. And that pumps water up to a reservoir, which is here in the bottom right. And that's my drawing of the wheel. And the special thing about this wheel is that the buckets are curved, and the radius of curvature changes as one goes from the outside to the inside. And it's designed so that the water shoots forward from the left-hand side to the bottom of the wheel and pushes the wheel forward, but then it doesn't go out into the center of the wheel, it drops back down. And as it's dropping back down, it pushes the wheel again. So there's a double effect that it has. Now, fisheries. I just mentioned that lake was used for fishing, and quite a lot of other places in the valley are used for fishing as well. So it's one aspect of the activities that's quite important in the valley. In 1626, when the East India Company took over the mills at Chilworth and established their gunpowder mill there, they raised the dam. They wanted extra water power, and as a result of raising the dam, there was a lot more water built up on the upstream side, and the dam collapsed. And all the fish in the pond were washed down, and they were farther down, and all the people in East Shalford were able to collect these fish that had washed down and eat them. So the people at Chilworth, and particularly in the manor house, were very upset about this and complained to the East India Company. Anyhow, just downstream again are the Postford mills. And on the left-hand side is a very nice drawing of about 1820. And that's the lower mill when it was a handmade paper mill. And on the right-hand side is a drawing of about 1850, by which time the paper at the lower mill was being made by machine. This is emphasizing that the upper mill, which says upper mill in big letters at the middle of that, was a banknote paper mill. And there were vast numbers of banks, of course, and they were making paper for banks all over the world. Now, William Cobbett hated paper money. You know, William Cobbett in his Rural Rides book, and he wrote, "This pretty valley of Chilworth has been perverted, carrying into execution two of the most damnable inventions of man under the influence of the devil. The making of gunpowder," but he excused that because that killed off tyrants sometimes. But banknotes, you know, he just couldn't accept banknotes. And then we come to the lower part of the valley, and here we've got Chilworth, East Shalford and Shalford itself. And again, on the right hand side, it's got the activities going on in each of these mills. First of all, at Chilworth, there was wire making. And at the top we got that illustration, and it shows a workman sitting on a swing and being pulled backwards by a water wheel with a crank on this shaft. And the worker, the wire maker, clamps as part of a hot wire in that tongs and pulls it through a die on the left hand side in that frame. And then the crank goes around and lets him swing forward. And he swings forward and several feet and opens the tongs he's got and clamps the wire farther on and keeps on being swung to and fro all the time like that. But then the Chilworth Great Paper Mill. This is downstream from Blacksmith's Lane, those of you who know the road. This in Martha's Church, up on top of the hill, no trees, or very few, and it had a paper making machine, and the long building sticking out on the left hand side is where the paper making machine was housed, and then there's the drying loft to the right of that with shutters. And then there's the gunpowder. And I mentioned already the pigeon droppings that was used for producing saltpeter. That one is at the Avencroft Museum near Birmingham. But it's rather nice because it shows pigeons with their behinds sticking out and doing their droppings on the floor. That's what John Evelyn's grandfather, had to do, was to organise a collection of all these droppings of the paper mill, the pigeon houses. And on the right hand side there's a picture of a refinery of these droppings from a German manuscript. However, at Chilworth, it was the East India Company created them, and they were bringing saltpeter, very good saltpeter, in from India, where there were great deposits of it. So we think that the saltpeter for the Chilworth mills were brought in by the East India Company, which they were in any case everywhere later on. Anyhow, there's 75% saltpeter, and there's 10% sulphur and 15% charcoal. Then these ingredients, the three ingredients, had to be mixed together with a small amount of liquid, and in early days they were stamped. And this is a water-powered stamp that we saw in the Peloponnese in Greece, and that mixed the ingredients together before it went on to the next stage. However, edge runners were then introduced and were more efficient. Edge runners with the stones, you can see the stones, quite a few stones around in the Chilworth gunpowder site, and there were two stones, and then they were just rotating round and round in a big saucer and mixing the ingredients together, much quicker than the stamps. Now, the Chilworth gunpowder site is a scheduled ancient monument, but we can get permission to do some explorations there, and one of the water wheels we've discovered, or a small part of it, is shown on the right hand side here. That was found in 2011. And then we come to Shalford Mill. Now, you all know Shalford Mill, I expect, from being there. But this again is a Jack Hillier drawing of about 1940. And of course it looks a lot neater than that now. So that's the end of my presentation.